Hi everybody, thanks for stopping by to check out the latest from Sailing Emerald Steel. Because cooking and heating up your sailboat are two very important things, we're going to be sharing with you how we do that aboard Emerald Steel in this video. And before we get started, we'd like to once again thank all of you that left a comment and a thumb up on our last video. Thank you so much, we really appreciate it.
Because on our boat we do a lot of cooking, not so much me as Susan. Cooking is very important, and our primary cooking we do on a propane stove, so it's very important to have a lot of propane so you don't ever run out. In the United States there is no problem to get a propane, nor Canada, but once you go into the South Seas the things become much harder. When we were last time in the French Polynesia, what we found out that getting propane was much more difficult than we were down there 20 years ago. 20 years ago we were able to just get our propane tank, drive with a dinghy close to a place where they fill it up, and we was able to just have our tanks refilled. There was no problem whatsoever. But since 9/11, with all these terrorist problems, they decided nobody can go into the propane plant. That's the only way to get your tank refilled was by taking your tank into a gas station, leaving it there, and twice a week a truck would come and pick up all the tanks, refill and bring it back. With that thing it's two problems. One, then you're stuck for 2-3 days waiting for your tank. So if you run out of propane already, you would be without it. And the second thing is this here. In the case of ours, we had aluminum tanks, which are quite expensive, and many cruisers just have steel tanks that half rust away. Now when you bring your tanks there, they don't give you no receipt or nothing, you just leave it there and that's it. So when you come back 3 days later to pick up, you hope like hell then you get your tank back, because if that tank would not be there, say somebody else came in the morning and picked her up, then there's nothing you can do about it. And that was a kind of free thing. You just left it there, and when you came back, you just picked her up, paid, and that was it. So nobody checked if you pick up your own one or not. In Tahiti, for example, fill up a 5-gallon propane tank, the size we have it. The price was almost $60 US. So in San Diego, for example, fill up a propane tank, it's anywhere between $15 and $17. In Tahiti it was almost 60. So it was way, way too expensive, and also, like I said, it was not so easy to get it. And the smaller islands was impossible. People who live on the island, what they do, they have a bigger propane tank, and they just take and exchange it for a full one. So I found it very quickly that's the way to go about it. A new tank costs like $70, and you need to have a regulator because the threads are not the same as in America. So I picked up a new regulator for another $12. So I had a total investment about $85, $90 total investment. So I bought that tank, I installed a new regulator, and to exchange the tank was only costing about $25 US. So this way, as you can see, I got propane for less than half of the price. So it worked out really, really good for us. And then when we left French Polynesia, he was able to return the tank for a full refund, because it was kind of like a renting. But us, because the tank was pretty much still full, we didn't want to turn it back. We took it with us, and we got to Hawaii, to the Hilo Harbor. We ran into a cruiser who was on the way into the French Polynesia, so we sold it to him. So it worked out good. So as you can see, we carry 3 propane tanks. One is here, one is behind the mast, and one is on the other side. Each one is a 5-gallon. Those 2 are newers. All 3 are aluminum. This aluminum tank, it's about 15-16 years old. It's been recertified once, and after 12 years plus one time recertifying, you cannot do no more. So you have a perfectly good tank, but because you cannot refill any longer, they expect you to throw away. And a good aluminum tank, throw away, it's kind of a crime. So we decided to do is this here. You buy yourself an extension hose, which is made for small barbecues. Then you have to find a place who sells adapters. The adapter is, you can get screwed into this end of the hose, and then you can screw this here into the propane tank and this side into the other propane tank. So the way you refill empty tank yourself, you took that fitting and install it in your old tank, and I will explain to you why. Then you take the end of a hose, only one end of a hose can fit in it. You install the hose. Okay, make sure it's nice and tight. And you put this one here to this tank. Again, make sure it's nice and tight so it doesn't leak. Then I take this propane tank and I put it on top of a boom, and I make sure I strap it to the mast, because we're going to leave this tank here for 24 hours overnight, because it's a gravity fed, so you want to make sure that all the propane drains down. Another thing is good to have it is put a towel over the propane tank, so keep cool, while this one is on the sun, so propane expands and more of it's going to go down. Usually we find out that it doesn't drain totally, there is still for 2 or 3 days propane left in the tank. You open a top valve and leave this one closed. So once you open it, then you come here and you gently open just enough till you start see air coming out. Then when the propane start coming out, you close it. Make sure you have a gloves, because the propane is very cold. So as soon as the little propane start coming out, you close it. This way you purge the line so all the air came out. And then when you close it, you open tank and start filling it up. So it's important. Install the hoses, put the tank up, strap it, open the valve on top, down is still closed. Then you come here, open gently. As the air starts coming out, as soon as you see a propane, close it. And when it's closed, it's ready to open the tank. Tomorrow you come back, you close both valves, take the thing apart, and your tank is filled up. This one here still has 2-3 days worth of propane in it, so I connect my regulator to it, I use it, and then when it's totally empty, I go to a store, have it refilled.
What's that, Jules?
It's a fine looking bread come out of our diesel oven.
So I just turned my oven on about a little more than half an hour ago, and I'm going to be making a pizza. It has to get up to like 600 degrees to really work well, and we just got a new pizza stone. You can see it down there. I love that thing, and I'm going to make a pizza, and it cooks in about 10 to 15 minutes. There's my oven thermometer. You can tell it's right around 600 degrees, but it'll get even hotter than that. Okay.
Okay, here's the finished product.
Okay. Now Jules is going to put this one in the oven here. He's the expert at it. There it is. Yeah. Ooh, that looks good.
All right.
Yeah.
So here's our humble dinner. Fresh made home pizza, which Susan makes 3 of them. Always make enough dough to make it 3. Fresh homemade salad. Fine water at our water maker. And here's the chef, Susan. Without her work, we would not have such a fine dinner. Now it's time to enjoy it. The oven has to be really good and hot for a pizza to be able to be cooked so well after only about 12 minutes in the oven.
Okay, so my cinnamon rolls have been rising for about a half an hour. I'm going to put them in the oven now. It's been preheated to 350 and on the upper shelf. And you can see how they look when they come out. So it's been about 20-25 minutes since I put my rolls in, so I'm going to check them and see how they're doing. It looks like they're done. What do you think?
Very nice.
I'm going to let them cool down, and then I'm going to put my little topping on them, and maybe I will give Jules one when I'm finished. They are. Who wants a cinnamon roll?
So, about our cooking facilities, we have a propane stove, which we use for general cooking, and actually in a warm climate, it's used by far the most of the time. Both of them are Dickinson's, made in Canada, which we had it for many years, and we found it to be very, very dependable. And then we have here a diesel stove, which is very good for baking, excellent in the cold climate as a heater, and also when you use it as a heater, you can use for a top as a cooking. And let me tell you, a lot of people don't think that a heater is important, but even a place like San Diego, January and February, early morning or later in the night, it gets quite chilly. So we found it to be very, very enjoyable to have it, very helpful.
And it keeps the boat nice and dry too.
Yes, keep it very dry because a stove has a 5-inch chimney. Now for that stove to work properly, have to have a minimum of 6 feet of chimney. In here it's 2 feet, and outside it's 4 more feet to make a good draft. The stove has a fan, which is for preheating, and it's right here. You turn it on. Anyway, it's for a fast preheating, and but once it's already hot, you can shut off the fan. When it's installed this way, on a fishing boat they work fine, but on the sailboat they wouldn't work properly because the carburetor is on the one side, and then if a sailboat heels, the carburetor is too high, it would overflow the burner, and when you have another tank, it would not work because carburetor would be lower than a burning box, so the fuel would not get into it. So what happened, you have to install that stove fore and aft. The carburetor, when you buy a stove, originally is installed in this compartment out here, in this bracket. But remove it and install on the side. So all you have to really do is take the pipe, loose it, turn it 90 degrees, and then install it on the side. Now, it's important part about it is to remember that that carburetor works on a gravity, and if you should have a float get stuck, then the fuel will be keep on coming. So you must have an overflow pipe installed, which we have it going into a bilge. It has it down there a 1 gallon plastic container where in the case if it's overflowed it will be drained out there. Because of it, it's very important to have the shadow valve next to the tank because it's a gravity fed, and tank is up higher, so if you should leave the boat and the carburetor would not shut down due to a faulty flow, the fuel will be overflowing and go into a container. But because our day tank is 25 gallons and overflow tank is only 1 gallon, you know what would happen? All the fuel would end up in a bilge, and then a bilge pump would come on, it would be pumping overboard, so it would be very, very bad. So we have a shut-off valve underneath the tank, so when the stove is not in use, we shut the valve off. So although we have any problem with overflow, this is just precaution, just in case, because it can happen. It happened to people before. If you don't have a day tank which is higher for gravity fed, then you have to install a small electric pump which has no more than 6 pounds of pressure for that purpose. We prefer gravity tank because there's one less of a problem with electric pumps. So when I want to turn the stove on, I turn the fuel valve under the tank, I turn it on, then I put this thing here in a number 1 position, right there, and then I have to wait a minute or so till some fuel comes into a burner.
So there you can see the diesel's coming up through the pipe and flooding into the burner right now.
Once your fuel is in a burner, you take one piece of toilet paper, you cut it in half, and then you make yourself a little wedge, and then you light it up, throw it into the box.
Yeah, you can see it's already caught with the diesel.
Close it. Then we turn the fan on number 2. And now you have to wait about, say, 5 minutes or so before it starts evaporating. Then if you want to engage the oven, you leave the level, and this way the oven getting heat, because otherwise the heat from the box goes straight into the chimney, so still gets hot for cooking, but the oven is disconnected. But if you want to use the oven, you shut off this thing, and now the hot air goes with underneath the oven and up to the chimney. We're very satisfied with it. We had it for over 30 years, and it's stainless steel with aluminum top, and it's probably the second from the largest ones, and they have 2 or 3 models which are smaller. They also make heaters, but when you want to have a nice warm boat, you cannot beat this here. So in the morning we turn it on, and say within 20 minutes you're nice and toasty. You can make have a coffee heating on it. You can have a pot of water for dishes or soups or whatever. And then we have a fan here, which helps us blowing all the heat around the boat. So anyway, now after 5 minutes, that's how it looks when it vaporizes. There's no more smoke. Okay, that's it.
So Jules and I both think that having a good heater aboard a sailboat is pretty important. When we first started out sailing and we had our 32-foot Morgan, we went to Catalina, I think it was in December, and we just about froze our behinds off. The fiberglass boats, as you probably know, are usually not very well insulated. Someone told us we should use a little clay pot on top of the stove burner, and that would heat up our boat, and we tried that. It didn't work out very well. It was pretty cold. So we both decided when we built Emerald Steel we wanted to have a good heater aboard, because we plan on cruising in colder climates, and also even in San Diego. We thought it's pretty important to have. Okay guys, so that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a comment and a thumb up. And as always, we'd like to thank all of you that support our channel through Patreon and PayPal. We really appreciate your support, guys. It's a big help. Thank you so much, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye. Bye.